or we have to video. So we have to use this so you can hear me too. But good morning, thanks for coming. Just a couple announcements before we get started. Apex is a huge hit. Thank you so much for everybody that volunteered their time and energy to help make it another successful event for us. We brought in just a little over $90,000 profit, plus the teacher 10% that they're going to get back specifically for their classroom. So it was our biggest year ever, so that was amazing. What else? We've got the Thanksgiving feast coming up. The district's selling tickets now. Get your tickets because they will be sold at the door. There's also the turkey trot coming up on Thanksgiving through LTEF. We get $1,000 to the school that has the most participants. So when you sign up, if you put West Cypress Hills as your school, the people, or the school with the most people that sign up will get a $1,000 grant from LTEF. So that's kind of awesome.
So right? It's the most percent. So
most percent.
You can have your neighbors and your friends,
okay.
relatives, all for West Cypress.
Oh, okay, good to know. Thank you.
So don't think that Lake Tahoe High School is going to say the most.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So get everybody to take West Cypress as your school. Okay, got it. Okay, and then we have the Parent Next Door Save the Date for March 27th. That'll be really fun. We're going to raise money for this school, but also raising money for the new elementary school that's going to be opening to help their PTO get started so that they can be off and running right when school gets going there. So be on the lookout for that. It was super fun last year. The committee has been working hard all year long. We're going to have great prizes this year, really awesome auction, lots of cool things available. And then we have Spirit Wear open now until the 13th at midnight. And if you came in today, you can put your name on the back of a ticket, and we're going to do a drawing at the end for a free youth sweatshirt. So make sure you get on that. And then our ongoing membership drive. If you haven't joined the membership yet, go ahead and join up. That's your $10 per year that you pay just to be part of the PTO. Doesn't obligate you to volunteer or do anything. It's just part of supporting the school. And all the links and all the dates and all of everything can always be found on Tiger Talk and PTO website, which Amy recently did an amazing job and brought us into 2019 with a new website. So thank you, Amy. So check out our website. All the links are on there. And that's it. So welcome Melanie Bennigy and Chastity Beatty, our two speakers for today. Yes, and Leanna Pesta, our assistant principal, wanted to come and say a word. We wanted her to introduce herself because she's a new face around here and is really hands-on with all the kiddos, and a lot of people probably don't really know her really well, so we wanted to introduce her as well. Thank you.
I'm Leanna Pesta. This is my first year at Lake Travis ISD. I came from Maynard ISD over on the other side of town, but I'm super happy to be part of this family. I have only been here since the summer, and I feel like I've been here for years. These kiddos here have been amazing. All the families have been amazing. This will be my 9th year in education, so it's coming up on Big 10. But it's been a blast so far, so if you guys need anything, please make sure you reach out to me. If your kiddos need anything, I've been meeting with a lot of them. There's just a lot of faces. So just let me know if you need anything. I'm here. Thanks.
All right, well, I'm a loud talker, and I have allergies, so I apologize in advance. There's lots of coughing happening. I'm not really sure how to make that stop at the moment, so, and I'm new to allergies, so if anybody has any kind of recommendations, let me know, because I'm having a really hard time this time of year, and it's new. So I'm going to try not to do a lot of talking today, because it elicits some coughing. But I am very happy that all of you were able to join us today. We are going to be talking about the Learner-Centric model, which is very new to us in our infancy stages, and really it's a philosophy behind why we do what we do here and what we want for our kiddos as they're moving through school and as they graduate from high school and on into other venues and higher level education or whatever they choose to do after. So I am going to turn it over. I want to introduce Chastity Beatty. She's one of our instructional coaches at the district level. She taught at BK, but I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself. Chastity and I have known each other for quite some time, and she has really made a huge impact at the district level in terms of our coaching and providing some really great coaching for our students and our staff. So I want to welcome her and thank her for being here.
Hey guys, good morning. Just a little introduction about myself. So my name is Chastity Beatty. I am one of 2 elementary instructional coaches the district has. We have a total of 6 on the team. The other 3 are middle school and secondary, and then we have a curriculum designer. That position is still kind of being fleshed out, but basically the whole point is for us to have a way to support teachers across the district from a district perspective on big vision ideas. So I've been in education since my 8th year. I was at BK for 6 years. I taught 5th grade and 3rd grade. I mostly did math and science, but I've taught all subject areas. My job is basically to come around and support teachers on a request basis. So if a teacher is trying something new in their class or they want training on something specific, then they would reach out to me or my counterpart, Lindsay, and we come out and we might observe what's going on in the classroom. We have a debriefing session with the teacher, and then we might set goals and look at what the research says, what would be best practices to support whatever learning goal that teacher is wanting to implement in her classroom. And then we just continue support by providing resources or feedback or anything that they might need. So that's an overview of my position. So the Learner-Centric model is our district vision, and we're just going to do this quick video to give you an idea of why this came about in the first place.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. The kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math, sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail, because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
Okay, so we want to kind of open this up to you guys right now. Show of hands, who's new to the term growth mindset? All right, awesome. Thanks for being honest. Yeah. So this is something we've been talking about in education for a while. But the question for you guys is, can I talk to whoever's next to you just for a few minutes, and let's kind of make a discussion around how do we build this grit? So the TED Talk told us that we need to. How do you think we do that?
Say hello.
Yeah, there we go, support. I like that. Yeah. What they're doing in their class, his daughter's here to talk to them. They're doing all this like kind of what they say, so like whatever, and they come up with ideas, like they're always like working together. What do you guys want to do? One is trying to come up with like engineering on that, and then next time they like have sessions and they go around. It's cool. It's all we do. What three goals have you been in? Everybody has their passion. Everyone has different passion. You have to let them be maybe more lay down. When they learn in a way
That's I know.
But they have one of the coach that just like
Okay guys, thanks for having that discussion with your neighbors. Is there anybody that would like to, or let's get at least 3 people to share out something that you heard or something that you said about how you think students build grit? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll speak on basically, I think what we're saying is it's okay for the kids to fail. They're not always going to know you learn from your mistakes. You grow, you learn from. Not everything's going to be easy to all kids in all areas, but it's what we learn and what we take from that. It's how we grow. So letting the kids know that it's okay.
So normalizing the process of failure is actually a learning process that then makes you better.
To find your passion, find what you really love, and build on that. Confidence to
Okay, so focus on passion and interest to build confidence.
I would say challenge the students. Sometimes it's hard to challenge if you have, a kid that just gets it like this, and then you have a kid that it takes them a little while, but like you need to encourage the kid. It takes them a while, but then it's the same time challenge that kid. Otherwise, they're never going to learn how to be challenged, and then they finally get to college and they're like failing because they've never been challenged. So how do you? My question is actually how do you balance that
In a classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you provide support for the students who are struggling, at the same time extend the opportunities for the kids who are getting everything? It's a good question. It's a challenging question to answer.
I would say that the child I have that struggled the most seems to be the most perseverant, and it came over time. So I think this having struggled, develops that. And also, what I've noticed about watching teachers through the years is when the teacher looks at the child in a limited way and looks at their weaknesses only, they don't have that perseverance because it feels like, well, what's the point? Whenever they look at them and they with that growth mindset that they can get there, it really makes a big difference. And I notice my child who struggles works way harder whenever they get that from a teacher.
So it's not just about us having a growth mindset about ourselves and developing that in our students, but also believing the growth abilities of our kids.
And treating them and talking to them, in that way, so they get that message.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay. So I'm going to go through kind of the history behind our district vision. So the reason why we have a district vision, why we have a learner-centric model is the conversation that we just had. We've got these traits and these skills that we need to develop in our kids for them to be successful. So we looked at ourselves as a district several years ago. Are we doing what we need to be doing to build these skills? Are we set up for that? And sustainable change is guided by a shared vision. And so the shared vision is the learner-centric model in Lake Travis ISD. So we're looking at how we change to meet the changing needs of the world. We want to educate and grow students who are embodying the growth mindset and the perseverance that Angela Duckworth's TED Talk mentioned. And in a few minutes, we're actually going to facilitate an activity to allow you guys to dig deeper and make sense of each of our 4 pillars. So you see pillar 1, 2, 3, 4. These are kind of the overarching ideas of our learner-centric model. So the first one is learning is social, learning is inspiring, learning is dynamic, and learning is empowering. So you guys will break up in a little bit and dig into one of those and then share your learning with each other to better understand the overall vision. So first, where did this come from? So show of hands if you have seen or heard of the 4 C's or the 6 C's of education.
Hey Melanie, what do I click to make it? Oh, okay. Okay. So at the turn of the most recent century, these 4 C's were developed as a response to the change in the job landscape. So we had the .com boom, we had e-commerce and other factors that led to things like Blockbuster going away and Netflix reigning supreme. We know a lot of stories like that. So people started to realize that our education system was still set up for the industrial age, the assembly line. And we started looking at how do we prepare our kids for a future if our education system looks like the past. So at some point, the 4 C's became the 6 C's. And these are still kind of what's driving a lot of vision change in education. So character, citizenship, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, communication, those are themes that you're going to see pop up when you guys dig into those 4 pillars of the learner-centric model. Thank you. So as change accelerates in all areas of our life, we're very quickly moving into our next age. So we've kind of blown through that information age, and that's when we saw the shift from the 4 C's to the 6 C's, and we're in right now what's called the conceptual age. So about 7 years ago, LTIC started looking at how do we change what's happening in our classrooms. And we started doing that through looking at programs like Schoology. So raise your hands if you've heard of Schoology. Okay, it's used a little bit at elementary level, it's used a lot at the middle school and high school level. So it allows for what we call blended learning. So that's learning that happens face-to-face as well as learning that happens on a digital platform. And most jobs these days require a variety of ways to interact with information, face-to-face and digitally. So we want to make sure that our learning is happening that same way so kids can go into the workforce and understand that both of these things need to happen. These are skills that they have to have all the way around. So it makes sense for our learning to model what we need in the workforce. So then about 5 years ago, our district partnered with ALP, it's Advanced Learning Partnerships, and we partnered with them through Dell. When the district buys devices like Chromebooks, we get education credits with Dell, and we were able to use those through with companies like ALP to do consulting for education. So ALP came in, and what they did was they brought in the idea of instructional coaching. So that was 5 years ago that we got our first instructional coaches. And the goal of these instructional coaches is to provide job-embedded professional development. So there's a lot of research that says when a teacher goes off to a training, learns all this great stuff, comes back, but without any support on that specific thing that they learned, the implementation level is pretty low, and the fidelity is pretty low. So with instructional coaching, you are able to increase that fidelity and implementation of what they've just recently learned. So the job embedded is when we come in during their conference period, and we have those conversations, and we come in and we model with them, and we observe the teaching in the classroom, so right on the job. It's a little bit different than going to a training at Region 13 or even within the district. Both are still valuable, but the coaching helps support the training that they get when they're off campus. And they also brought the idea of authentic learning experiences, which I'll show you a definition of that in a second, but it's the idea of taking the state standards that we're required to teach and looking at it through the lens of what real-world occupation exists that uses these skills. And can we put something in context? Can we bring in student interests and passions to get kids really involved in this so that even if they're struggling, at least they're interested in it, and it helps with that perseverance a little bit. Sorry, on my notes pages. So this isn't something that's just happening at LTIC. This is something that's happening across the globe, across Texas. This is just our response to it. So we're going to do something called a jigsaw. So we're going to go around the room and number off 1 through 4. And then there are 4 tables at the back. And you'll go to, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get there, you have a copy of the Learner-Centric model at the table. Your group will read through your pillar, just the one pillar. And as a visual, or as a group, you'll create a visual. There's a poster and markers back there to represent what you guys get out of reading through that pillar. And then once that's done, we'll do a little gallery walk to go through and see if those visuals can just help us better understand what all that dense language is about. All right, so let's start with
2, 3, 2, 3, 4.
1,
2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
All right, awesome. So we're going to give you guys about 7 to 10 minutes. All my ones are going to come to this table. Twos right here. Threes right here. Fours right here.
Ones are where? The very first table down there by the entrance. To stop it? Yeah. Right there at the top.